Hi, you're on Reddit Confessions. Here's something no one tells you. Sometimes the most deafening silence comes right after the words, "I just need time to think." Last Tuesday, I came home, and the living room smelled like her perfume, but she was gone. Not gone as in ran errands. Gone like she had vacuumed her side of the closet and taken the framed photo of us in Denver. Gone like she left me a handwritten note, folded in three, perfectly aligned with my dinner plate. The pen was still warm when I picked it up. Don't panic. I just need space. This isn't goodbye, it's a pause. Please respect that. I stared at it for 20 minutes while my chicken parmesan got cold. Then I reread it 40 more times, like there was a secret message in the spacing between her words. Was I losing my mind? I didn't call her. I didn't text. I followed instructions like a sad little intern trying not to get fired. I told myself, this is healthy. Couples take breaks. She'll come back. So I left her favorite candle burning. I fluffed her side of the bed. I even fed the neighbor's parrot she used to talk to through the window. It kept repeating, "Hello, pretty lady," which now just felt mocking. On the third night, I opened the photo app on our shared iPad. She hadn't logged out. Mistake. There they were, dozens of new selfies in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Same bedsheets, different outfits. In one, she was wearing the necklace I gave her for our 5th anniversary. In another, she was pouring champagne into 2 glasses. The final one, her holding up 2 fingers and a man's hand wrapped around her waist. His face was cropped out, but I saw the wrist tattoo, a compass rose. She once told me, men with compass tattoos think they're deep but can't even read maps. I closed the iPad. I didn't cry. I didn't throw it. I just sat there, waiting to feel like a man again. And then, for the first time in this whole pathetic spiral, I stopped waiting. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on her side of the bed, clutching her pillow like it could explain things. The smell of her shampoo was still there, eucalyptus and citrus, the kind she said helped her manifest clarity. It used to make me feel warm. Now it made my skin itch. The next morning, I got up like nothing was wrong. Made toast. Drove to work. Stared at spreadsheets until the numbers looked like insects. No one at the office knew. They all still thought we were the cute couple who brought homemade brownies to team parties. But my silence wasn't strength. It was paralysis. I didn't ask her where she was, who she was with, or when she planned to return. I just kept replaying her last words. This isn't goodbye. On the 5th day, she finally texted. Just checking in. Hope you're okay. Still figuring things out. Please be patient with me. She included a smiley face. A smiley face. I stared at that emoji for 5 full minutes, wondering if I should reply with the truth, that I'd seen the pictures, that I knew about Compass Tattoo Guy, that I wasn't okay. But I didn't. Instead, I texted back. Take all the time you need. Why? Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I showed anger, she'd use it as her reason to stay gone. I thought being calm and understanding might win her back. Spoiler, it didn't. That weekend, her sister called. Abby never liked me much, always saw me as too soft. She asked if Elise was back yet. When I said no, she went quiet. Then she said something that hit like a crowbar to the ribs. You know she's not alone, right? I told her to be honest with you. She said she would. I didn't answer. I just nodded into the phone like she could see me. After that call, something shifted. I went into our shared Google account. She hadn't logged out of that either. Calendar events. Ride receipts. Photo backups. Every breadcrumb she thought she swept away was still sitting in plain sight. There it was. Room 714, the Larkwood. 4 nights booked. A second name listed. Neil. Neil. Not just a random guy. Not just a new fling. Neil was a coworker. From her studio. The one she once said smelled like expensive soap and thought too highly of his opinions. And me? I was the one at home washing her dishes and folding her clothes while she was out rediscovering herself in hotel sheets with a man who loved jazz and didn't believe in furniture. That night, I drafted the papers. No threats. No shouting. No long letters about betrayal or pain. Just clean, cold legality. If she wanted space, she was going to get her own mailbox. Filing for divorce wasn't cinematic. No thunderclap. No wind blowing through the courthouse steps. Just me, in khakis and a wrinkled shirt, hands shaking as I slid the manila folder across the counter. The clerk didn't look up. She just stamped the top page and said, "You'll be notified when it's processed." That was it. My marriage reduced to a stack of paperwork and an $89 fee. I stood there for a moment, waiting to feel something, guilt, anger, even relief. But I just felt hollow, like I'd mailed in a piece of myself and forgot to keep a copy. On the way back to the car, I saw a couple arguing across the street. He was pacing, arms flailing, and she was crying, trying to explain something. And I envied them. At least they were still fighting. They still mattered to each other. Me? I was already a ghost in my own life, filing paperwork while my wife posted filtered selfies from candlelit rooms that didn't belong to us. I didn't tell Elise right away. I wanted her to feel the distance first, to see what space really meant. So I stopped responding to her breadcrumb messages. I turned off read receipts. Let her little texts float into the void. Thinking of you today. Hope we can talk soon. I miss the cats. She never said she missed me. Not once. That part stood out. A week later, I dropped off the envelope. Inside was a copy of the divorce filing, our wedding photo torn clean down the middle, and a sticky note with 6 words. You got your space. I'm gone. I left it on the counter of her favorite cafe. The barista, the same one who used to sneak her extra whipped cream, promised to hand it over when she showed up. He even looked uncomfortable, like he knew too much but couldn't say a thing. That night, she called. 8 times. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail. Her voice was trembling, unsure, not angry, not defiant like I'd imagined. Just thrown off. Nolan, what is this? Are you seriously divorcing me? I told you I needed time, not this. Call me, please. I didn't. Because for once, I wasn't interested in her version of clarity. But what caught me off guard came the next day. She showed up. At my door, holding the envelope in her hand like it had burned her. No makeup. Hair in a bun. Wearing one of my old hoodies. The same one she used to steal when she was cold. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her smile, the one she always wore like armor, was gone. You can't be serious, she said. This isn't how it's supposed to go. And I just looked at her and said, neither was Neil. She blinked when I said his name, like someone had yanked a curtain down in her brain. For the first time in weeks, she didn't have a script. No spiritual metaphors, no gentle tones, no condescending pity. Just silence. I watched her mouth open, then close again. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. How long have you known? She finally asked, voice thin, eyes darting. Not denying, not defending, just calculating damage control. That told me everything I needed. I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because she didn't realize how far gone I already was. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I stepped aside. If you're coming in, don't lie. That's the only rule. She hesitated, then walked in like she still had the right. The cats didn't even react. They'd stopped waiting at the door days ago. As she sat on the couch, I noticed she scanned the living room, eyes pausing on missing frames, bare shelves. I'd already started packing her things. She just didn't know it. Nolan, it wasn't serious, she said suddenly. It wasn't. I didn't leave you for him. I stayed quiet. She hated that. I used to fill silence with apologies, with over-explanations, with softness. But now, the stillness was hers to sit in. She kept going. He was just easy. I didn't have to be perfect around him. He didn't ask about bills or the water heater or why I was still up at 2 a.m. looking at apartments I'd never move into. I folded my arms. So, you cheated on your husband because the plumber stressed you out? Her face twisted. That's not what I said. It's what you meant, I said calmly. You wanted to escape, so you did. You just didn't expect the exit door to lock behind you. She stood up fast, eyes glassy now, hurt starting to catch up with her ego. You don't understand what I've been going through. I felt invisible for months. And I was invisible the moment you walked out, I said. Difference is, I didn't go looking for someone else to see me. That one landed. She dropped back onto the couch and covered her face with both hands. I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. I'd spent every drop of empathy on a woman who edited our life into a version she could walk away from without guilt. When she finally looked up, her mascara had smudged. So that's it. You're just done? After everything? I nodded. You said this was a pause. I'm just making it permanent. For a second, I saw her really see me. Not the version of me she liked to scold for being too sensitive or too routine. Just me, broken, exhausted, and finally unwilling to beg. She stood. No hug. No final argument. Just a quiet, I hope someday you'll forgive me. I didn't answer. Not out of spite. but because I honestly didn't know if forgiveness was part of the story anymore. She left, and for the first time in forever, the silence felt like mine. The morning after she left, I didn't wake up to an alarm. I just opened my eyes to the ceiling fan spinning above me, wondering if she cried on the way home. If she even went home. My mind started spiraling again, something I thought I was done with. But that's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't just slice through once. It lingers, leaks, loops through your thoughts like static you can't shut off. I made coffee, fed the cats, and stared at my phone. A text came in, not from her. From Abby, her sister. All it said was, "I didn't want to get involved, but you deserve to know." Attached was a screenshot. Elise, with Neil, smiling, arms wrapped around each other at a beach I didn't recognize. It was dated a full month before she ever asked for space. Not after. Not during. Before. So much for not serious. So much for needing time to think. She'd already chosen him. I was just the exit she forgot to lock. I didn't reply to Abby. I couldn't. Not without saying things that would have made me feel worse. Instead, I did something pathetic. I scrolled back through our old texts. Hundreds of messages from Elise, some mundane, some romantic, some that now felt like jokes told at my expense. In one, she wrote, "You're the only person I can truly be myself with." That was 3 days before the beach photo. By noon, I decided I wasn't going to sit in this house one more day letting ghosts rearrange the furniture. I packed a bag, drove 4 hours to my cousin Wesley's cabin in Vermont. No cell reception, no neighbors, just trees and wind and a dusty wood-burning stove. I didn't even ask for permission. Wes owed me. I helped him hide from his ex when she keyed his truck and tried to sell his PlayStation on Facebook Marketplace. That night, I lit a fire, opened a bottle of wine I'd meant to save for our anniversary, and sat on the porch in complete darkness. It was the first time in weeks that I didn't feel watched by my own memories. Until the next morning. Because Elise showed up. I was brushing my teeth by the creek behind the cabin when I heard the sound of tires crunching gravel. I froze. The moment I saw her get out of the car, holding a duffel bag and wearing that damn hoodie again, I felt everything in me lock up. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She looked exhausted, pale, but determined. "Abby told me where you went." I didn't respond. I just waited. "I know I messed everything up," she started. "But you left so fast. You never gave me a chance to explain." "I don't want your explanations, Elise," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "I want my peace." But I didn't leave for Neil. I swear. It was a mistake. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just needed to feel something, anything. "You mean someone?" I corrected. Her eyes welled up. "I never planned to fall for him. And I never planned to have a wife who thought I was optional." The wind picked up. The fire pit crackled. She looked like she wanted to sit, to stay, to argue. But I didn't move. I wasn't going to give her comfort this time. "I brought the ring," she said suddenly, pulling something from her pocket. "If that means anything." I looked at it. Our wedding band. The one I'd picked with shaking hands 8 years ago. She was holding it like it had power. Like it could rewind the damage. But what she didn't know, couldn't possibly know, was that I hadn't come to this cabin to get clarity. I'd come to write something final. I didn't take the ring from her hand. I didn't even look directly at it. That circle of metal, once a symbol of forever, now felt like a mockery. She stood there, trembling slightly, probably expecting me to break down. That was the old me. The guy who swallowed pain like it was his duty, who mistook guilt for love and silence for maturity. But that man didn't follow me to this cabin. He stayed behind, buried under the weight of every lie she wrapped in pretty words. "I wrote something for you," I said finally, walking back toward the cabin. She hesitated before following me, cautious, like she could sense something had shifted, and she was right. I reached into my backpack and pulled out a single-page letter, folded in half, creased from how many times I'd reopened it, rewritten it, almost burned it. I handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Her eyes scanned the first few lines, then stopped. She read it again. Her breathing changed. I had written it with no venom, no dramatics, just truth. Line after line, I laid out everything I'd discovered, the dates, the lies, the emotional erosion. But it wasn't a confrontation. It was closure. Near the end, I had written, "You asked for space. I gave you something more permanent. You said you needed to find yourself. I hope you do. But I'm no longer the place you come back to when the road gets cold." When she got to that part, her face fell. That's when I saw it. The thing I hadn't seen in months. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. The realization that this wasn't a tantrum. It was the end. And she hadn't prepared for that. I thought you'd fight, she whispered. I thought you'd make me choose. You already did, I said, pouring myself coffee. And now I'm choosing too. She sat down hard on the edge of the porch, like her legs had given up. So that's it. You're just walking away? I looked at her, really looked. The same face I once couldn't wait to come home to. The laugh I used to chase. The woman who, just months ago, said she wanted to grow old with me. But the truth is, she'd already left, long before the affair, long before the break. Emotionally, spiritually, intimately, she'd been fading like a ghost, and I'd been too blind to call it what it was. No, I said. I'm not walking away. I'm just finally standing up. She started crying then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, stunned sobs, like her world was unraveling in slow motion, and she didn't know which thread to grab. But I didn't reach for her. Not this time. I let her sit in it. Let her feel what it's like to lose something not because she was hated, but because she was no longer trusted. After a long stretch of silence, she asked, "What do I do now?" I took a sip of coffee, watching the steam drift between us. "You figure that out without me." She didn't answer. She just folded the letter and held it like it might disappear. But it wouldn't, just like the consequences. She left the next morning without another word. I watched her drive away through the trees, her taillights flickering like dying embers. I thought I'd feel victorious. Or maybe broken. But I didn't feel either. I felt clean. The morning after she drove away, I stood barefoot on the wooden floor of the cabin, watching sunlight crawl across the room. Her scent was already gone. The subtle trail of lavender she always wore had evaporated with her presence. All that remained was a half-empty coffee mug, a folded blanket she didn't bother to take, and the memory of her reading that letter, realizing she'd lost the one person who always gave her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there still. And for the first time in years, the stillness wasn't suffocating. It was liberating. I spent the entire day alone. No phone. No emails. No, "Hey, man, you okay?" texts I didn't want to answer. I chopped wood. Read an old book I found under the bed, the stranger of all things. Cooked something simple. Stared at the stars long after the fire had gone out. And at one point, as I washed my hands in the freezing creek, I looked at my reflection and saw something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. Don't get me wrong. The pain was still there, still pulsing under my ribs like a dull ache. But the sharp, desperate part of it, the part that made me want to beg for answers or rewind time, it was fading. I realized I had spent so much of my marriage apologizing for who I was. Too quiet. Too sensitive. Too predictable. Elise used to call me boring during arguments, and I'd laugh, pretending it didn't hurt. But standing there, I didn't feel boring. I felt steady. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to be someone she could love. I was trying to be someone I could live with. The next day, I returned home. Not because I missed it, but because it was time. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel haunted anymore. I boxed up the rest of her things. Labeled everything. No bitterness, no angry music in the background. Just quiet movement. The kind that comes when you know you're not waiting for someone to come back anymore. Then, 3 days later, came the envelope. Not from her. From her lawyer. It was a formal response to the divorce filing. I had expected resistance. Maybe even a dramatic plea to reconsider. Instead, it was cold. Professional. Efficient. As if she'd flipped a switch and decided that ending our marriage was just another task to cross off her list. One clause stood out, though. She had waived any claim to the house, finances, or shared possessions. No fight. No negotiation. It was like she wanted out as fast as possible. And I should have felt victorious. I'd gotten exactly what I asked for. But part of me wondered, had she already planned this long before she said, "I need space"? Was Neil just one chapter in a book she'd been writing quietly behind my back? That night, I pulled out a dusty box of photos. Us at the lake. Her laughing on my shoulders. The blurry one from our Vegas road trip. And then I found the note, the one she wrote me on our wedding day. "Whatever comes, we choose each other. Even when it's hard." I held it for a long time, then dropped it into the fireplace. Watched it curl and blacken until there was nothing left but ash and the faint smell of smoke. She chose something else. Now so had I. 2 months passed. Quiet, steady, surreal. The house, once filled with echoes of our routines, her playlists in the kitchen, her laugh from the hallway, was now filled with something better, peace. I learned how to enjoy silence without wondering what it meant. I took up running again, fixed that leaky faucet she used to complain about, repainted the bedroom a color she would have hated. I even started seeing a therapist, not to heal the relationship like I once begged her to do, but to understand why I gave so much to someone who gave so little in return. And then, like a ghost knocking at the window, she texted, "I drove by the house today. I miss it. I miss us. I'm sorry, Nolan. If there's even the smallest piece of you that still believes in us, I'd do anything to talk." I stared at that message for a long time. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't tremble. There was no surge of hope or hate. Just a strange, quiet realization that her words were too late, and I was no longer the man who needed them. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know how. But the next morning, I sent her a photo. Just one. It was me, standing in front of the community center, holding a flyer for the new mentorship program I'd signed up for, helping teens who'd grown up in chaotic homes, trying to teach them stability, patience, and how to rebuild after disappointment. No caption, no explanation. And that was the message. She left it on read. That afternoon, I went to the park and met someone. Not romantically. Just another volunteer named Miriam, mid-30s, glasses, painfully sarcastic, but kind in a way that felt honest. We talked about books, about how broken people sometimes make the best builders. I didn't tell her about Elise. I didn't need to. Later that evening, I walked home alone, past the diner where Elise once laughed with someone else, past the bench I once cried on, past the life I used to think I couldn't live without. And for the first time since this all began, I smiled. Not because I got revenge, not because she regretted it, but because I survived it. And that was enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. It's messy, it's painful, but in the end, it gave me back something I didn't know I'd lost, myself. Now I've got a question for you. What's one historical event that shaped who you are? Something that changed your path forever? Drop it in the comments below. Let's talk. And hey, you're watching Reddit Confessions. If you like this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.